Hello there, YouTube. This is Eddie from the Vanguard Critic, and welcome to a segment I'm gonna call Misplays. Title subject to change. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you guys about some of the common misplays I've seen a lot of players do, whether it's at the local card shop or online. And I mentioned in another video that just watching people misplay all the time kinda upsets me. So in order to make you all better players or help you become better players and to decrease the emotional strain on myself because I'm pretty selfish, I want to talk to you guys about the proper usage of stand triggers. Now, I have my Yu-Gi-Oh playmat here just because it's a lot bigger than the Vanguard playmat, just to give you guys something to look at while I get set up. So, yeah, let me set up the field real quick. Let's say your opponent's field looks something like this. Um, let's just focus on their front row, since that's what's most important here. And, we'll say you're playing Bermuda Triangles, and this is your front row. Let's just imagine you have a full field so that Flute gets her, extra 3k power boost. So, yeah, let's see. Alright, so when you're playing stand triggers, you want to, well, it's pretty much common sense to attack with a rear guard that's able to hit your opponent's vanguard unboosted. Now let's imagine that our entire field's hitting for good numbers, 16 to 18. Just to avoid clutter, I'm not going to put boosters behind our units here. But since Flute is able to swing for 11 by herself, and Dragonic Overlord's 11k, you want to attack with her first, and for this scenario, it doesn't really matter what our opponent's at. Let's just say they're at 0 to, I don't know, 0 to 4 damage. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me move these aside. Here's your deck. Here's your opponent's damage. I'll just put 3 cards there. Right, so your opponent's at 3 damage, and you're attacking with Flute first. Now, whether they guard or not, it doesn't change the situation at all. Then you want to attack with your Vanguard, and let's say you check a stand trigger. Now, what a lot of players do reflexively, they just stand their rested attacker, which is common sense, and they give the power to the rested attacker. So now that's swing for 16 by itself, and you swing at the Vanguard and swing at the Vanguard. Now, in this situation, your opponent will need 10k to stop the Flute and 10k to stop the boosted Aqua. So that's 20k shield total. But this situation changes when your opponent jumps up to, let's say, 5 damage. And let's reset the field. So your opponent's at 5 damage, and the field stays the same. You're still going to check a stand trigger, but you don't know that yet. So order of attack doesn't change. You attack with Flute first for, I don't know, 16k, let's say. And your opponent has to guard since they're at, 5 damage. So that's normal. That's normal. Then you attack with your Vanguard and you drive check a stand trigger. Now, a lot of people they will do the same thing they did when your opponent was at 0 to 4 damage. They would stand their rested attacker and give the power here. But like I mentioned in the last scenario, if you attack with this for 16, your opponent needs 10k. And if you attack with this boosted for 16, your opponent will still need 10k. So that's 20k shield total. But let's say you check the stand trigger, and you stand Flute. Now you give the power to Aqua, and remember she has a boost behind her, so now she'll be swinging for at least 21k. How does this change the situation? Well, if you attack with Flute for 11, your opponent still needs 5k to guard because they're at 5 damage. So let's just say they intercept. So that's 5k right there. And then you attack with Aqua, boosted by anything, to swing for at least 21k. Now your opponent needs 15k in order to block the attack. Now, the number of shield didn't change that your opponent needed to guard with. They still needed 20k, but look how many cards they had to use up. They used up 3 cards in order to guard your 4 attacks, whereas before, they only needed the 2 10k shields. And this isn't counting the first attack from Flute and the attack from the Vanguard. This is only after you drive check. So yeah, they needed 3 cards, still 20k shield, versus 2 cards, still 20k shield, in the previous situation where you would have given everything to Flute instead of standing Flute and giving the power to the Aqua. So that's a 1 card difference, which can really change the flow of the game. Now this kind of brings me to something else I've noticed. Let me reset the field. And in this situation, damage doesn't matter. Um, how should I do this? Okay, so let's say next turn your opponent survives and they cross ride. Now none of your rear guards are able to swing at the Vanguard for decent numbers after a stand trigger. Um, so let's see how you would go about with your turn. In this situation, honestly, it doesn't really matter what you attack with because no matter what you stand and give the power to, you're still going to swing at the opponent's Vanguard for the same amount of guard. They're only going to need 5k in order to block your attack. So let's just do the same thing as we did before. Swing with Aqua, your opponent guards. Swing with your Vanguard, your opponent guards, and you check a stand trigger. Now, again, a lot of people I see online and at the card shop, they would stand the rested attacker and give it the power, almost, instinctively. So what does this do? Swing at the Vanguard for 16. Guard for 5. Swing at the Vanguard for 18. Guard for 10. So that's 15k shield. Extra that you would need to, or your opponent would need to guard. Now, let's go back and reset the situation one more time. Attack with Flute. Your opponent guards, no guards, it doesn't matter. Attack with your Vanguard and check the stand trigger. What can you do to optimize your attacks? You can stand Flute and give the power to Aqua. Now, what does this do? You can attack a rearguard interceptor and force out 5k no matter what. If your opponent lets the attack through, great, they lost 5k shield. If they guard it, they still need 5k shield to guard their rear guard. So that's 5k shield no matter what. Now Aqua can swing at the Vanguard for 23k. Now if your opponent's not at 5 damage, then obviously they can just let the attack through, but you're still pushing them for 1 damage. If they're at 5 damage, then that's great. You forced out 15k guard from their hand because they need to guard everything. So that's the same situation as I covered just a few moments prior. Um, is that clear? Yeah. So no matter what you give the uh, uh, okay. So yeah, like I said before, a lot of people they would just stand their rearguard attacker and then give it the power. And if you can't swing at the Vanguard for like a magic number, with the power from the stand trigger, then it's better just to go after a rearguard because you're still forcing out 5k shield. And then you optimize your other row, which is still standing, to either press for damage or force out more cards from your opponent. And that's pretty much all I wanted to cover with regards to stand triggers. If you guys have any questions, it doesn't need to be about stand triggers, but about anything else, you can just ask and maybe I'll make a video of it. Yeah. Who knows? I know the stand-up cup champion used stand triggers in his deck, so I don't know if a lot of people would be interested in testing them out. But if you are, hopefully this video helped you. And once again, Eddie from the Vanguard Critic. This is Misplays, title subject to change, and I'm signing out. Bye.